Knockouts in 3 Counts starts now.
Whoa, what up, though? Technical issues aplenty, but we have figured it out. We have got quite the episode for you tonight as we are talking all things TNA. We are talking the Combat Sports Awards. We got all kinds of stuff. We've got my chat with Ryan Nemeth, which I got to do thanks to the fine folks over there at TNA. And then, as I spoke about, it is the Combat Sports edition of the Knockouts. Cory, how the fuck we feeling on a Tuesday?
Getting through it, man. Ready for the weather to break. We got a couple more months left. Waiting patiently as I can be. Put it that way. How about you?
Hey man, I can't complain. We're moving. My glasses are still holding on, even though they broke on me on the middle of the Lions game. But again, shout out to our friends at TNA, dude. I've got a lot to talk about. It was a great year in the world of combat sports. I heard about another big fight that's going to be happening at Knucklemania regarding one of our past guests of the show, Joe Elmore. There's a lot of good things to talk about, both in the world of combat sports. But before we get to that, man, like I said, we've got the debut of Ryan Nemeth. He's the younger brother of Nick Nemeth, and as you've heard him say on TNA, his big brother, Nick Nemeth. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about goals for the Nemeths. We talked about being nominated for Tag Team of the Year for TNA. We talked about their matches with the Hardy Boys. We talked the locker room etiquette segment, so that's going to be funny. We talked some MMA things. He talked to us about his collegiate wrestling background and his brother training with the likes of Gray Maynard. A lot of good things in there. Shout out to TNA, but I couldn't be more excited for them as they get ready to debut January 15th on AMC. You know, this is a huge network for them, back on regular cable TV. I just hope nothing but good things for TNA. Anybody that follows the show for a long time, they know that I have been a big proponent of TNA and what they bring to the table. And I've said for a long time, and said in this interview, that I think that their women's division has been one of the best, if not the best, in wrestling for a long time. So there's a lot of good things to talk about. Cory, you got any thoughts on TNA coming to AMC and the magnitude that this kind of brings with them being on such a major network again, after that being one of the biggest complaints that we would see in the comments weekly about TNA?
I mean, rightfully so, right? I mean, whenever a product is hard to follow, like I always say I'm going to do, I always turn the wrestling stuff into MMA stuff because that's what I'm more familiar with. Look at how bad Bellator fell off a tank when they started having to change networks and do this, that, and the other, and nobody could find out where their product was. Even when, let alone when events were and this, that, and the other. And I'm sure TNA was dealing with the same type of issue. That being said, when you move into more of a, regular home, people know where to find you, when to find you, it does nothing but help the business, like, drastically. Especially for the more casual fans, the people that don't care to do the research, to figure all that type of stuff out.
You're not wrong, dude. And like I said, we've talked about it not only with names like Nick Nemeth going there. Shout out to past guests of the show, Matt Cardona, as he is now signed back with the WWE. So shout out to him. He is definitely always ready. But I mean, the TNA NXT partnership has done a lot to help them out. And I think that them being on a major network is really going to finally be able to put them back in front of the eyes that they need to be in front of, and hopefully be able to expose people to the good wrestling that there has been with TNA for a long time. And I think not only just a long time, but what could be to come. So without any further ado, my chat with Ryan Nemeth. Here it is.
Hey, man. Good to see you again. What up, though? This is Knockouts and 3 Counts. We told you we had quite the interview for you tonight, man. A guy who, we've gotten to see his brother Nick on the show. Now we have a debut episode today. We've got Ryan Nemeth joining us to talk about TNA's debut on AMC. My brother, I appreciate the time.
I'm a long-time viewer, long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks so much for having me on here. I'm psyched. Everything in life is exciting right now, man. January 15th is all we can think about with AMC.
You know, that's as good a spot as any to talk about, man. You know, I keep up with everything you guys are doing in TNA, and you and your big brother, Nick, had quite the run last year as a tag team. You guys were up for Tag Team of the Year for TNA. So let's start there. Talk to me about getting the team with your brother over here in TNA. And, you know, what are you guys looking to do in 2026? Maybe a rematch with the Hardys?
Well, this is how I'm finding out we didn't win Tag Team of the Year. I guess you said we're up for it. I'm assuming that means somebody else won. Jeez. This is how you find out. It's always your own people. Jeez. It was a great year. It was great to team with him. I got into wrestling because I wanted to travel the world and perform with my brother. So that has finally, after all these years, been able to happen. And I'd like to thank TNA and the creative team and my brother for making that happen. And, you know, when we do interviews together, they ask sometimes about, like, you know, I'll just be honest with you, man. You're in Detroit, right? We're up from Cleveland. We kind of have a little a bond here, unspoken. I'll just be real with you. A lot of people would just be like, oh, you're in TNA because your brother made them hire you and they're doing him a favor to – he doesn't want me there. I don't want favors from him. He doesn't want to give favors. The creative team tried an experiment. They said, why don't we put you guys together and see what happens? Guess what? It worked. Okay? And if it didn't work, there's no way in hell my legend in the making future Hall of Famer brother would just be saddled with somebody he didn't want to be with. You know, that's just a fact. That's just true. And I wouldn't want that either. But it went very well, you know. A great partnership. It's really fun. I've been able to wrestle with guys that I didn't come up with who are in WWE. Even in AAA, we had that big tag team, crazy 8-team or 4-team, however many people were in that. We had people from SmackDown, people from Mexico. I mean, the blending of these two companies and other companies is so fun. It's unprecedented. At least as far as I've been alive, I know that, you know, things used to happen in the past century, but I'm still young and up and coming. I was born in 2014, so this is all very new to me. Joe Henry appearing in the Royal Rumble with a very fun spot is cool. You know, Nick / Dolph going on Monday Night Raw on Netflix and having an insanely awesome match. We get Matt Cardona. I mean, it's great. It's all good. And it's all kind of the perfect storm. The perfect storm of the Nemeth brothers tagging together, the perfect storm of WWE and TNA having a partnership, the perfect storm of AMC being the new place to see pro wrestling and TNA. It is, I'm having trouble finishing sentences right now because it's so cool. It's all awesome.
And definitely shout out to Matt Cardona, who is also a past guest of this show as well. I was definitely stoked to see that and find that this has brought him back to WWE as well. We talk about AMC. I know a lot about what you and Nick do with the comedy stuff, as well as I got to see one of your shows here in Detroit, as well as doing acting and other things like that. For like just Joe average wrestling fan who, maybe they just watch, just wrestling. How wrestling fans are. There's people in the wrestling bubble that's just what they watch. For somebody that maybe doesn't know the gravity of it, can you talk a little bit about what getting to go to a platform like an AMC who has shows like The Walking Dead and things like that, like what makes that, such a great place to land for TNA?
Well, just by the numbers, AMC has amazing reach compared to where TNA has been in the past, including right now. And I think that's going to be a huge boon to getting new viewers, to having more some people love TNA, they love TNA wrestlers, but they just don't have the channel that's on right now. So it's just going to be so much more accessible. We're going to be in your homes with you every Thursday. And AMC has had some of the most critically acclaimed and popular shows that have ever existed in the history of TV. So I think it's a good place to land. It's a great place to be for TNA. It's a great time to be in TNA, and it's a great time to be a fan of TNA. If you haven't watched it since the Spike TV days or since, 20 years ago, tune in right now. There's some amazing, amazing talent, men and women on this roster who I like to watch. Previous companies I've worked in, sometimes the shows kind of seem a little redundant. On TNA, and let's be positive. TNA has a lot of variety, okay? You can watch the show for 2 hours and see a little bit of every kind of wrestling, and some you didn't expect. You'll laugh, you'll be mad, you'll cry, you'll think things are adorable. It's action-packed. You got the Rascals doing God knows what athletically and physically. You got legends like the Hardys. You have Nick Nemeth on there, who is a multi-time world champion in, how many different companies, people that are on our roster now grew up watching him as their favorite wrestler. So that goes to show you where he's been and what he's done. And I think AMC is the perfect landing ground for TNA. And I cannot wait for the big debut, January 15th.
Hey, man, I'm looking forward to it, too. I've been a TNA Plus subscriber for quite a while myself, so definitely or if you are a deathmatch fan, you got a guy like Bear Bronson who just went for a title, who's been dipping his toes in the deathmatch scene after he left AEW. And then, like you said, you've got names like your brother and even yourself, like you mentioned, that you've worked in so many different places. With you getting to work in those different places, can you talk to me a little bit about like what you feel like you've seen as far as differences now that Carlos Silva's come in? Because it seems that the whole vibe in TNA seems to change. Like most people you see talk about it, whether it's talent or, people on the inside of TNA, you seem to see a real positive vibe on like where people are excited of the direction of the company for the first time in a while.
Well, every different company and every different regime of leadership has a different vibe. I've been part of a few vibes that I'm using the words to use that have shifted. My first company I ever worked at, halfway through my tenure there, someone else took over, and it can be jarring. I think the changes in TNA have been, I don't know how to put it any other way. We're on AMC now. We're partnering with WWE now. Every show that the numbers have gradually, and sometimes more than gradually, increased in attendance, in viewership, in awareness. When when I wear my TNA jacket when I'm flying the airports, I have this lovely TNA tracksuit. But now more than ever, when someone sees that logo in the airports, they go, "Oh yeah, I started watching again," or "Oh yeah, I know about TNA again." Where that's not always been the case, you know. Some people, I think the numbers, the awareness, the exciting 2-hour TV show every week, going to a show is the biggest thing ever. The roster and everyone in the back feels like we are all on the same team trying to. So I would say wrestlers, production, people working the merch stands, we're all like on the same team, and that's kind of cool. I've never felt that way before. You know, I do my little Instagram show, Get Close to Ryan Nemeth. That is just something that everyone who works on it is excited about. Like even I used to have to go around asking people to be on it. Now as I get texts going, when are you going to have me on? Can I be on it next week? Like that's not happening in other companies, you know? And I mean, it's not happening at the companies I've worked at. So Carlos treats it like a team. He has attainable goals and numbers, and he's an athlete himself. I know he's gone running every single day for years and years and years. Like he's competitive, black and white. What's the numbers? How do we get there? Here's my goal. Let's step by step get there. And he did it. He basically said when he came in, I want to be on a better platform, a better channel. And we were all kind of like, well, that'd be nice, maybe. And then it happened, and it's just like, all right, there's the proof. What else do you want, you know?
Absolutely. I couldn't argue with that at all. I loved his chat with my buddy, Adam Bernard from the Sportster. Before I let you get out of here, I got 2 more questions for you that are both short. When this airs, we'll also be doing our Combat Sports Awards for 2025, if I can spit it out. Are you, do you ever get down with MMA or, you know, boxing at all? I know your brother's got the wrestling background. Do you get down with it at all?
I loved amateur wrestling. I loved wrestling. I loved playing rugby. And I love watching college wrestling and high school wrestling, Olympic wrestling. I do not follow MMA. You got to give me a break on that one, man. There's too much.
I feel that. I had to ask because, like I said, I know Gray Maynard, who was also at the school with your brother and all that stuff, still has a gym here and trains with a lot of our guests. So I had to throw that out. This last question.
I'm a huge fan of Detroit. Huge fan of doing comedy there. And you mentioned being at one of our shows. Was that at Go Comedy or somewhere else?
It was the one. It was the most recent one you did. It was Bound for Glory weekend.
So was that the Nemeth Bros Hunkamania, or was that?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, man. Like I said, I enjoy what y'all do, man, and I definitely look forward to you guys coming back to Detroit, man, because I've heard nothing but good things from everybody I know that was there. So definitely.
Every time we're in Detroit, it's one of our favorite shows. Detroit's a huge comedy, huge improv hotbed. A lot of the guys I performed with and ladies I performed with at Second City here in LA come from Detroit, Second City, and I gotta say it's legendary and it feels so great. We did the Detroit Improv Festival this summer. I love Detroit comedy, so just I can't help you on MMA, but I will definitely support.
Hey, I love it, dude. Anytime you need any help with anything in Detroit, man, remember your friends at Knockouts and Free Counts. The last question I got for you. So we got a segment on the show. We call it Locker Room Etiquette, but it's not what you'd think. It's not trying to poke, pick, and prod. It's like, what are some of your biggest pet peeves when it comes to whether either something that might annoy you in the locker room or something that you would give as an advice to young guys coming in. We've had guys like Josh Briggs tell us, bring your own squirt bottle, bring your own wrist tape, keep your baby mama out the locker room, man, never stop training, wash your balls, just all kinds of different funny ones. So if you had anything that annoys you, you know, that somebody does in the locker room or a piece of advice you'd give to a young guy, what would it be?
My advice, guys, I have a lot of advice to give. You want me to pick one? I'll pick the boring one. If you're going to ask someone for advice and you're new, I think it's a good lesson to not then take one step to your left and ask the same question to someone else right next to them, and then just go down the line asking. If you are the person who's giving the advice and then you're like, wow, I've really passed some knowledge on to this young guy. Sounds good. He'll be better off. And then they just go to your left and ask your friend the same question. You just want to, you're so mad, you know, my advice wasn't good enough. You want to hit now, you know, like, that's it.
Makes you feel like they didn't care at all.
Yeah. Or do it privately somewhere else. Don't publicly go in the locker room asking every single person the same question because you kind of seem like a fool and disrespectful.
Hey man, I totally can feel that. It's definitely even just talking to people, like when somebody will come and ask you your opinion, and then you just like that they asked somebody else the exact same shit that they asked you. You're just like, well, then why'd you ask me for?
Why did you ask me? Or a different version of that is asking advice, and when they give you their answer, tell them why they're wrong about it. Again, why did you ask? How about just don't ask?
Yeah, so if you already thought you knew the answer, then you didn't need mine. That's a good one to add to it. Well, my man, I appreciate the time. Make sure you guys check out TNA's debut, January 15th on AMC. I know I'm going to be watching. If you're in the Detroit area, make sure you watch it. And like I said, anytime y'all come back to Detroit, man, shoot us a line.
Hey, let me just say one final thing here. Speaking of live, events and cities, don't forget we're in Dallas next week, 15th and 17th. We're in Albuquerque, January 22 and 23. Tickets you can get on TNAWrestling.com. You can watch everything at TNA Plus, but try to watch on AMC. Catch us everywhere, man.
And like he said, man, if you can make it to a live show, I got to go to all the ones they had in here in Detroit. I was at the show that you guys, the pay-per-view you had in Vegas, Mania weekend. If you can come to a TNA show, bro, you need to be there. It's going to be a good time. You know what time it is.
And again, if you can't catch it live, catch it on AMC, catch it on TNA Plus, catch it on AMC Plus. We're everywhere, and we want you to be part of the fun.
You heard the man. Make sure you're checking it out. TNA coming at you January 15th. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the knockouts for the MMA awards. Appreciate you, my man.
All right, we're going to throw in what was going on with the first couple questions because I heard in the chat that you couldn't hear that. So I'm going to throw in the question about let you guys hear the question about him talking about teaming with his brother Nick Nemeth and them being nominated for Tag Team of the Year. And then we are going to get started on our 2025 knockouts.
Looking to do in 2026, maybe a rematch with the Hardys?
Well, this is how I'm finding out we didn't win Tag Team of the Year. I guess you said we're up for it. I'm assuming that means somebody else won. Jeez. This is how you find out. It's always your own people. Jeez. It was a great year. It was great to team with him. I got into wrestling because I wanted to travel the world and perform with my brother. So that has finally, after all these years, been able to happen. And I'd like to thank TNA and the creative team and my brother for making that happen. And, when we do interviews together, they ask sometimes about, like, I'll just be honest with you, man. You're in Detroit, right? We're up from Cleveland. We kind of have a little a bond here, unspoken. I'll just be real with you. A lot of people would just be like, oh, you're in TNA because your brother made them hire you and they're doing him a favor to he doesn't want me there. I don't want favors from him. He doesn't want to give favors. The creative team tried an experiment. They said, why don't we put you guys together and see what happens? Guess what? It worked. Okay? And if it didn't work, there's no way in hell my legend in the making future Hall of Famer brother would just be saddled with somebody they want to be with. That's just a fact. That's just true. And I wouldn't want that either. But it went very well, and so it was undeniable you had to put us against the Hardys, and I pinned Jeff Hardy, and I'm very proud of that. So if you're asking how 2025,
I would be happy about that too.
it's all I think about when I wake up. It's what I think about when I go to bed, and when someone says, "Oh, how's wrestling going?" I don't know. I pinned Jeff Hardy. How's your life going? It's great. It's awesome. I have nothing to complain about, and I only wish maybe that could have happened on AMC because the new platform, the new channel, the new network could be so good. And I am very proud of everything my big brother and I did this past year. But to know that now we're getting AMC, I can only think, okay, well, thanks in large part to us. So great. It's exciting. It's awesome.
Hey, well, talking about that, you getting to watch it from the side. Talk to me about, your big brother's not only been doing stuff in TNA, he just got to be in Cena's last match tournament and things like that, getting a whole bunch more eyes back on that too. What do you think getting to be part of that? Like, how does that help TNA as a whole as you guys come into this new relationship with AMC? I mean, it's got to bring a lot more eyes.
I think that anything a TNA superstar, TNA talent does on WWE programming is awesome. Okay, and they're not treating us like some little kid joke either. They're giving some gravity and respect to the brand, and I think it's a great partnership. It's really fun. I've been able to wrestle with guys that I didn't come up with who are in WWE. Even in AAA, we had that big tag team, crazy 8-team or 4-team, however many people are in that. We had people from SmackDown, people from Mexico. I mean, the blending of these two companies and other companies is so fun. It's unprecedented. At least as far as I've been alive, I know that things used to happen in the past century, but I'm still young and up and coming. I was born in 2014, so this is all very new to me. Joe Henry appearing in the Royal Rumble with a very fun spot is cool. Nick going on, or sorry, Nick/Dolph going on Monday Night Raw on Netflix and having an insanely awesome match. We get Matt Cardona. I mean, it's great. It's all good. And it's all kind of the perfect storm. The perfect storm of the Nemeth brothers tagging together, the perfect storm of WWE and TNA having a partnership, the perfect storm of AMC being the new place to see pro wrestling and TNA. It is, I'm having trouble finishing sentences right now because it's so cool. It's all awesome.
And definitely shout out to Mac.
That is our chat with Ryan Nemeth, man. Shout out to TNA for the link on that one. Definitely make sure you guys check that out. January 15th, they're coming to AMC. Make sure you are watching. Got to be on the couch. Got to be checking that out. You got to be watching it. What up, though, Chris? Are you going to be watching TNA from Massachusetts? Do you have any thoughts on anything that Ryan Nemeth had to say in our chat? Cory, thoughts on our chat with Ryan Nemeth now that we have navigated the technical difficulties? I agree with you. I can't wait to see them on AMC either.
Always interesting when you have a family dynamic. Well, I'll start there, especially when one's a little more established, because you always kind of wonder, is the lesser established one going to catch up? If not, is he going to surpass? It's like this whole thing, right? And then on top of that, I thought he did a really good job breaking down what he's got going on with the nomination and stuff like that. And definitely was an interesting interview, is what I'll say.
Hey, man, definitely look forward to bringing Ryan back on here. Maybe next time we'll have Ryan and his big brother Nick on there. Also, I have to give a shout out to our guy Zach in Downstate, who have a pretty badass theme song for Nick with The Wanted Man, as well as the one for past guest of the show, Matt Cardona, who just went back to WWE. I like it. Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian when they go to AMC. That is a banger, dude. The question is, Chris, is Mike Santana going to get him the belt back? Is the question, man. I was kind of shocked when Mike Santana lost the belt on the first episode after Bound for Cory when they were gone for a month. I need to see my guy Santana persevere here. But, that said, I could be wrong, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Nick Nemeth still has the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Battle Royal Cup. So if that's the case, I don't know. Maybe old Nick Nemeth could be making a run-in on the world title match on January 15th. With that said, we've also got to cover the 2025 version of the we got our 2025 version of the knockouts for combat sports. A lot of good things in the world of combat sports. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we found out there's going to be a big fight in 2026 for our guy Joe Elmore as he takes on Mike the Marine Richmond at Knucklemania. That's going to be a banger of a bare knuckle fight. But we've got, like I said, our 2025 Combat Sports Awards. We're going to be in a whole total new landscape in 2026 as UFC moves over to Paramount. We've already got the announced fight for Michigan's own, the GOAT, Clarissa Shields, will be fighting February 22nd at home here in Detroit against Franchon Cruz, and we will be in the building for that. Christine Faria, becomes the queen of violence in 2025 with a big win and a finish over Jessica Borga. You got the domination of Barab Dvalishvili in 2025. I mean, a lot of different things to talk about, Corey. What are some of your highlights? And you can pick whatever the first category is going to be.
I mean, highlights. I mean, it was such a weird year, right? Like in the combat sports realm, or at least for me as a fan, there was a bunch of huge accomplishments, but I also feel like there were so many big fights that ended up left on the table or did not end up matched up or whatever the case was. So it was like this big year, but I feel like we didn't see a ton of the top tier guys, other than of course Marab fought 14 times or whatever it was. I don't know, man. I feel like for the sport, I feel like I'm very excited to see what 26 brings with the whole Paramount deal, moving to what is it, CBS or NBC, one of the two.
Paramount, the Paramount Plus.
Yeah, but they're also affiliated with
they're
CBS,
a CBS
or whatever
thing. Yeah.
So some of the events are going to be on there, is what I'm saying, and I think it can definitely add an interesting dynamic. Of course, being a fan and not having to worry about pay-per-views anymore. The fact that maybe this local bar or something down the street or whatever the case for whoever around the country wants to go watch the fights at, maybe they'll be able to host it without having to pay a hosting fee now. And maybe, fans will just be able to watch events and stuff. And I think it can do huge things for the growth of the sport over the next couple of years. That being said, like as for 25, I feel like it was a year of a lot of proving that dominance was real. We've seen a couple different people move up weight classes, gain belts in new divisions. Seen a couple dominant defenses on the women's side from like Valentina Shevchenko and stuff. But I feel like already what we have on the books for 26 is already going to be a huge bang compared to what a lot of 25 was.
I agree. I think there's a lot more firepower, especially with this rumored White House card and everything that could come with that. It'll be interesting to see. But you didn't pick a topic. What's the topic?
You also got they got back-to-back non-pay-per-views. What are they? Premium numbered events or whatever they're calling
still
them.
Counted as PLEs. It's no different than WWE when they were doing Peacock and everything else.
Well, I think they announced their official name is, I think it's just premium numbered events or something along those.
Same damn difference. PLE, PNE.
Same shit.
It's a PE. Yeah. All right, we're going.
Same shit.
We're going with it. Pick a topic and tell me who your winner is.
For me, I feel like the thing that left the biggest impact on me and throughout the year last year will be a submission. And for me, the submission in question was, and normally, of course, you go straight towards like, who won by submission in a title bout, who won with the biggest. I just feel like the rawness and the dirtiness of it and the way he was able to, it was like what every non-grappling fan hopes grappling turns out to be, right? And that was what Fluffy Hernandez was able to do against Roman Dolidze. That was my submission of the year. And just like I say, the rawness of how it all went down, the fact that he was able to pull him down and just, it was like the classic John Jones, what he did to Machida, just dropped him, and once it was all over, it was just, it was nasty. So what about you, Kyle, for submission of the year?
You bring up the one with Fluffy Hernandez. That's one when I was doing my research for my research for my picks for all this stuff, and you there's so many fights that go on in a year. So when you go back and you look and try to find all of these, what was the best submission? What was the one that I think of? Again, kind of like what we talked about with the pro wrestling side of things, bro. Like there's so many matches that you see in a year that it can be like, oh shit.
Yeah, you got to try your best not to be
what
recency. Yeah.
Well, right. What was my pick? What were some of the ones that, you think of with that kind of thing? I'll be honest with you, dude. One that kind of, sticks out to me would be the one that you were talking about with Fluffy. I think that the one with John Silva and Bryce Mitchell was another one, just purely for like what that did for John Silva, like automatically kind of like putting him on Front Street, and immediately putting him as like a top contender, being able to do that to somebody like a Bryce Mitchell. There was also a couple nasty ones like the inverted triangle that we saw. If you saw the clip that floated around with that, I would say for me, the pick is going to be the Fluffy Hernandez one as well. But like I said, there were a few that were dope. Like I said, if you haven't seen that one from Octagon, go check out that inverted triangle.
That was a wild one.
The Sean O'Malley and Marab fight where Marab just neck cranked Sean O'Malley into oblivion. What a way to put an exclamation mark on like their fight series and stuff as well. So I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that. But yeah, I would say that would be my overall pick for that. For me, if I'm picking the next topic, I'm gonna take it outside of the world of MMA for a minute, and I'm gonna go boxer of the year for me. Okay. I think it's kind of undeniable who this is. I mean, I'll go with a male and a female one, but as far as males, nobody had a year in boxing like Terrence Crawford. The guy was already considered arguably pound for pound, and then moves up another weight class to fight Canelo, who's a certified killer and has got all the experience in the world you could want. Biggest stage you could want to fight on. 70,000 people inside Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, and goes out there and puts on a show and beats Canelo in every way possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no other way to put that. He beat him in every way possible. And I mean, the guy was already considered to be the best pound for pound, or arguably the best pound for pound, prior to that fight. But then to go in there and beat him, and then he had the spat with Mauricio Suleiman of WBC and all that, and then now has since announced his retirement. But when you talk about best boxer, bro, I mean, Bud has set himself on the pedestal, kind of like what we used to talk about with Floyd. And ironically, Bud has said the only person he thinks that could have maybe messed with him was Floyd. So, I mean, like I said, as far as male fighter of the year, I kind of feel like that's a moot point. On the women's end of things, I kind of feel like it's a moot point. I think Clarissa Shields has to win that one by and far. Okay. You've got Amanda Serrano, you got Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor had a great performance in their second fight. But nobody's coming close to touching Clarissa Shields. Nobody's coming close. And you can argue, okay, Oh, she needs to fight somebody. Oh, she needs to, bro. She's fighting who they put in the ring with her. And okay, if that's the argument we're gonna have, who is she gonna fight? Who if who she's beating isn't enough? Who are you going to have her fight?
That would be my only, I guess, critique. And I, like we had mentioned before, going into our next matchup, even though it's a rematch, it is, widely known as probably her toughest, bout to date. So I don't know. I feel like that is the only rightful critique, though, is, level of opponent, but that's not her fault that there's no other, women in her size that are relatively close skill wise,
I mean, she's been beating them at multiple weight classes. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Let's not act like she hasn't cleaned out multiple weight classes at this point. It's not
Absolutely.
like she just did it just at heavyweight and doesn't want to go down to a lower weight to fight, tougher competition. I mean,
that's true too.
I mean, she's cleared out multiple weight classes. That's what makes this Franchon Cruz fight a good fight, because she's an undisputed middleweight champion as well. So, I mean, again, championship pedigree, there's the history there. I mean, this will be the third time they fought between amateurs and the pros. Like I said, I think Clarissa Shields wins that one, especially with kind of being the biggest star as far as women's boxing goes. Although I will say, I loved the Katie Taylor and Serrano fights. I thought they were great. I loved that they were on Netflix. I thought that they gave a whole nother, avenue for people to learn more about women's boxing.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. But I mean, when you ask me who is the women's fighter of the year when it comes as far as boxing, I just don't. There's not another name that pops out to me where I'm like, yo, they won. And if I'm not mistaken, Clarissa fought more in 2025 than Katie Taylor did as well.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I don't know, maybe because I've seen so many of the Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano fights now that, I feel like it is what it is. To me, it's not enough at this point to continuously win Fighter of the Year. That being said, I guess I'll get into my picks. For women's side, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue with. I mean, there isn't really any other like standout person. Like you say, you could possibly go Katie Taylor, but for all intents and purposes, this Michigan boy is gonna definitely go Clarissa Shields as well. But to switch it up a little bit on the men's side, hard to argue with your pick as well with Terrence Crawford. I mean, obviously, what he was able to do in a huge matchup is really sport defining, right? But for me, not to kind of, spin it off or whatever, but be a little controversial, I guess. I feel like Turkey Al-Sheikh is the men's boxer of the year, even though he's not a boxer himself. Just the magnitude of matches that we were able to see over the course of the last year because of what his influence in the sport of boxing has done has really changed so much about the game and changed so much about just like what we even thought was possible, right? I mean, anybody who's been following boxing for any extent of time could tell you that was probably the biggest issue with boxing is we just knew that X fighter and Y fighter were never going to see each other unless they fought each other at their, very end of their career. And I feel like because of Turkey Al-Sheikh and his investment in the sport, we've been able to
That doesn't make him fighter of the year, though.
It does in my book, bud. Does in my book.
He's not fighting. Who did he fight?
You're right.
Pulling out the Dundee out of his wallet? Come on, man.
Yeah, he fought the standards of the sport. That's what I'll say.
He had the biggest bankroll.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely right, and I don't disagree if I'm going to not try to be, I guess out of left field a little bit with your pick, but I just feel like realistically we would have never seen that fight to begin with. We would have never seen a magnitude of fights that there's so many.
I'm not saying that he isn't great for
over the last
boxing.
year
I
and
think
a
he's
half,
great
2
for
years.
boxing. I'm just saying fighter of the year, though.
Hey, wins
You
my
can't be
vote.
fighter of the year if you didn't scrap, dog. That's the whole part. He's got to be the fighter part of the fighter in the year. He's just the bankroll part.
Hey, we don't have a promoter of the year for boxing, so he wins this award instead.
Then maybe he wins promoter of the year, period. Oh, dude. Oh, that's a new one. All right. Well, that means you got to pick the next category.
I mean, since we already got submission out the way, might as well go with the other method of victory, right? So knockout it is, and for me, realistically, there was a couple that were definitely worthy, right? But it was, and I'm still kind of fighting it right now. Like, I always pronounce his name wrong, but Hoofy, however you say his first name,
Mauricio Hoofy. Oh,
yeah.
you son of a bitch.
That one, I mean, that one should probably be it, but I feel like the way that I felt it when it happened, I gotta go the Quinlan Sutherland versus Nazareth Hackprass. Well, I was sitting there watching this fight, and I'm like, "Oh, who's this new kid from Australia, New Zealand? He looks like he can possibly scrap. They must be expecting something from him if they put him right in here against Nazareth." And then whap! Instantly, as my mind was going through that thought, it was just this crazy knockout where he's just all of a sudden sleep. You hit him with the kick, it lights out, and the way, yet again, was there more impactful? Was there bigger stuff throughout the year? Probably. What impacted me the most in the moment was that knockout. And honestly, can't wait to see what the young prospect brings up in his next fight.
Look, all I'm going to say is I feel like Mauricio Hoofy's spinning back kick is kind of undefeated on this one, dude. But it's right up there with Lerone Murphy just ending Aaron Pico.
Yeah, that was a wild one too.
With that spinning back elbow.
Also one that almost took my vote as well, just because of the way that the fight was playing out and how you didn't expect it to happen, I guess. It was the Carlos Prates Leon Edwards. The way he was able to weather the storm in the first round, had that kind of infamous picture now where he was just kind of, I don't even know how to describe it, disinterested when Leon Edwards was on his back in the standing position, and just, looked like he just could not care less and was posing for the camera. And then to go into the very next round and get the knockout the way he did, that one's also on the list, at least for me.
Yeah,
especially
I think
Leon Edwards having never been knocked out before, at least I believe so in the UFC.
Oh, the Prates knockout was a banger. The Prates knockout was a banger. I think for looks, if we're going like with which one like looked the coolest, I think it's Hoofy. But if you're talking about which one to me is knockout of the year as far as like statement made, I think it's Lerone Murphy, because that like kind of cemented like, look, bro, I don't need to be fighting my way up the division. I am at the top of the division. And
apparently
you feel
bad.
Well, and you feel bad for a guy like Aaron Pico, because anyone that knows Bellator knows who Aaron Pico is, and it's a guy who's been around for a while. Finally gets in the UFC and then get caught on the other side of a highlight reel buzzsaw like Lerone Murphy. That sucks. But yeah, I think for the stakes of it, I think Lerone Murphy's is the one for me. I think Hoofy's would be a close second, though, because dog, that's like, if you're a kid and ever watched like Street Fighter, You know, like you ever dream how you like did somebody out like in a street fight, dude? That would be like the coldest way to ever do it. You'd never have to be in a street fight ever again. Like like that would legit be it.
There was definitely a couple throughout the year that were like, wow, the way he landed that shot. You know, I mean, there always is, right? It's
What's
combat
crazy
sports,
though
but
is how he started the year
and
so hot and then by
actually,
the end of it fell apart.
I I was thinking about this like 2 weeks ago and completely forgot about it in the lead up to this, and I completely contradict everything I just said about what my knockout of the year was. Take it all back. For me, my knockout of the year was what Mohawk was able to do in front of us at the first bare knuckle event. That to me was my personal knockout of the year. That was such an insane fight for anybody. I mean, I'm sure it's not as well known and stuff like that, but that first round was nothing but action. Would the fight go, Kyle, like 90 seconds or something, 120 seconds, somewhere around there? It definitely didn't finish a first round. That being said, it was there was knockdowns, there was blood, there was I almost lost my voice, and I don't usually yell. I'm not a yeller, you know. That's not my nickname,
Liar.
old yeller. They never called me that. That being said, the feeling in that venue when everything went off, and the feeling that it was like Mohawk had Michigan on his back against, you know, against the opponent and trying to work his way into this potential tournament and stuff that they're having right at the cusp of potentially fighting for a belt for bare knuckle. It was a huge, huge moment in my little heart. You know what I mean?
Well, like I said, I can't argue with Mohawk. I mean, that pretty much leads us into bare knuckle fighter of the year. I I was gonna say it was Christine Faria, but I feel like that's like the easy pick, because it wasn't a year where there was like the one big standout fight where it was like
Yeah.
insert big star here, like when we had like the Eddie Alvarez, Mike Perry fight and stuff like that. I would say that Christine would be the pick, but I think that's the easy pick. For me, I think I'll go with Esteban for bare knuckle fighter of the year, just based on the impact he was able to make this year. And I mean, even if you look at the article that just came out in Sports Illustrated with David Feldman, he said he's one of his top three prospects headed into 2026 as well. I think with all that being said, I think as far as bare knuckle fighter of the year goes, I think that goes to our guy Esteban Rodriguez for me.
Okay. I obviously hard to disagree with. Just expressed how much emotion I felt watching his fight here in the mitten. But I'm gonna dig into somebody else that I feel like maybe surprised me a little bit more that we've also had on the show. Dustin Pegg. I feel like he's done so much with his career and continued to showcase himself being just this, like, we've had him on the show what now 3 times or something, and every time he obviously talks up his fight, obviously talks up how he's going to win and stuff like that, but he's super respectful. You would never guess that that's his career path, is bare knuckle fighter, and then to see him go in there and lay out the heart that he does every time, and able to just walk through some of the damage that's implemented and put it on himself, and then, you know, always seems to walk out victorious, it seems like. So for me, that's going to be mine.
I can respect that. Just pulling up what's next. But we did bare knuckle fighter of the year. That makes you up next for the next
You
topic.
still got the list in front of you. What do we got? What do we got left?
Still got
I mean,
fighter of the
obviously
year. You got female
yeah.
fighter of the year. You got female fighter of the year. You have you still got moment of the year, breakout star of the year.
I think breakout star. I like that one. It's about time for a breakout. Controversial pick here, a little bit, but I feel like she don't get no love. Mackenzie Dern, current champ.
Interesting.
I feel like she went from being this person that everybody just kind of looked at, if you get what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? They didn't appreciate her fighting skills and what she actually brought to the table. They just looked. And I feel like this last year has changed that a lot for her career. Not only is she the belt holder, but she was able to get 2 victories. I feel like she's definitely up against it in her next fight when, I feel like pretty inevitably Whaley ends up moving back down, and if that is the fight to happen. But that being said, I feel like once a champ, always a champ, and it was not on my bingo card for Mackenzie Dern to be the strawweight champ for the UFC, and I feel like a lot of people probably felt that way. So maybe doesn't get the respect it's deserved, but to me, it's more than the Peyton Talbots or something like that, where I feel like that's where the other direction of this award would go.
You're mistaken. That wasn't who my pick was going to be. You're talking about women. We got women's first.
I was just saying.
Oh, in general.
One,
okay,
I was
so,
saying,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, I got you. So yeah, breakout star of the year for me, dude. It's kind of, I have a total different pick on that one. For me, the breakout star of the year is Joshua Van, dog.
Yeah, hard to argue with.
Joshua Van is the pick. Didn't nobody know who the fuck he was before 2025. The dude fights his absolute heart out against Brandon Royval, which, I'll probably be talking about that one in another category here in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy fights his heart out, works his way into a title shot. Obviously isn't the way you want to win the title, with Pantoja breaking his own arm, essentially. But nonetheless, the guy is a world champion at this point. At such a young age, he's the youngest champion. And on top of that, he's the first, if I'm not mistaken, he's the first champion from Miramar too. So so much prestige with it. And then to kind of just bull his way in the door. I think as far as breakout star, I feel like there's not really another answer as far as Joshua Van, because even though Mackenzie Dern may have won the title, everybody knows who Mackenzie Dern is. Mackenzie Dern has been around for a long time. She's been on the cusp of that for a while. Joshua Van, on the other hand, is still a young dude who
truly rose from where, I don't know if he was ranked coming into the year. He might have been in the
and
top
then
15,
to end it as
10,
world champion, and then have arguably fight of the year on top of that with Brandon Royval, which I'll just let it out the bag. We can go fight of the year after that. Brandon Royval and him is fight of the year for me, dog. I'm just saying
that one might be most true out of every award, that there is this year. I feel like, to jump right to it, since we're switching categories, for me, just to clarify, I do agree with what you're saying. Mackenzie Dern was well known and all that. I just, like I said, I feel like she wasn't necessarily respected on the fight aspect of it, and that's why I went in that direction. But when you're talking about fight of the year, I can't disagree with you at all on that one. What those two guys were able to do over a 3-round fight, the fact that it was 1-1 going into the third, you didn't know which direction it was. I was leaning as a fan towards Royval, and to see what Van was able to do in that third round and really make that fight his and apply the pressure, land the bigger shots. And it was a wild fight. And what was there, 500 shots or something thrown between the two of them? It was like some astronomical number where it was like, what the, what kind of fight is this? Like, you guys literally were in there both just button mashing, but it wasn't that. They were both technical. They were both using their footwork. They were both landing shots. They were looking for openings. It wasn't just jab, 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 jab. It was, it was a very fun fight to watch. And I think it's, well, realistically, what else are you going to pick for fight of the year that tops that? That was such a showcase. That was such a moment. The only thing that kind of took consideration for me, and it yet again was, a lot of these awards are what meant the most to me. It might not be true for everyone else, but is for me. The only other one that was almost took the spot just because of the way everything played out and how the scenes around it and everything was the Holloway versus Poirier. The way that Holloway was able to get it done was super respectful, was super all class act throughout. The fight itself was amazing, of course. And then to have Poirier with the retirement in his hometown, the build up and everything to that fight and that moment and just everything about that night. But that being said, I still think if you were talking actual punches thrown, it's got to be Van versus
Van and
Royval.
Come on, guys.
Yeah. I was getting there. I said Royval. It just took me a minute.
All right, so we going male fighter of the year or women's fighter of the year?
Oh, is that the only two we got? Well, didn't you say moment earlier too? For moment, it's I'll just let that.
And then
I'll let that cat out of the bag. Like I just had started to say earlier, for me, it was definitely Dustin Poirier's retirement was moment. I mean, that was by far what left the most. It took a piece of my fandom with it, is how big of a moment it was for me, at least. So that one definitely had to win my moment of the year.
Yeah, I was a big Dustin Poirier fan myself, being a fan of him since the Fightville days, or was it Fightville or Fightland, the thing that was on Showtime, and then watched them all. Yeah, and then watched them all through the UFC. Yeah, I think I feel like if this White House fight looks like it's going to happen and really is going to happen, I think that's probably going to be moment of the year for 26. But yeah, dude, I think ultimately, I think that's as good a pick as any, really. I mean, for moment of the year, I guess I would agree with that one. Obviously, I'm bummed that we don't see Dustin Poirier anymore, but for him to go out on his terms and to do well like that, we've got two categories left. You got male fighter of the year and female fighter of the year.
Gotta be ladies first, right?
I mean, again, if we're talking MMA now, since we've already talked about boxers, Kayla Harrison is the pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really, again, no disrespect to Mackenzie Dern, but Kayla came in and basically steamrolled most of her competition. Kayla had one of the most anticipated debuts of coming to the UFC because of her prior history, both in the Olympics and in the PFL.
Mm-hmm.
If she would have come in and then would have flopped after that, that could have been like one of the most colossal flops, in UFC history had she lost. Now, I'm not going to say that every fight was always the most entertaining, because sometimes she did what she had to do and wrestled them and beat them up. But what I did like about what she did is, regardless of which fight we're talking about, she left it to where when those fights were over, you're looking like Kayla Harrison dominated these fights, which ultimately I think was her ultimate goal coming into the UFC was showing that the dominance that she displayed in PFL is something that she could keep up and make crossover to the UFC, and now has put her on a collision course to fight her old teammate Amanda Nunes in what is unarguably probably the biggest super fight that's left, at least right now, in women's MMA. For the same reasons that you said with Katie Taylor, I would say Valentina Shevchenko, but we've already seen her and Whaley fight before.
No, that was the first for them. That was the first for them too.
You're right. That was the first time. I was thinking of Whaley and somebody else. But we've seen, so she beat Whaley, but Valentina's kind of in the same boat as what an Amanda Nunes was, where she beat everybody. And I'm not discounting her beating, her beating Whaley. If anything, it makes me have more respect for Whaley coming up a weight class to, make that fight happen and still fighting her heart out. Versus Kayla Harrison comes in here and I feel like had way more pressure on her. Like Whaley was essentially playing with house money. She had already monopolized the weight class below, moves up to take the fight with Valentina. And if she wins, okay, well, I lost moving up. If Kayla Harrison loses, it's done. There is no okay, I'm gonna move back down weight classes, or I'm gonna move up weight classes. Or there is no plan B.
For me, I don't necessarily disagree with your pick, except I do disagree with the part of the analysis because I ultimately lead the other direction. I do believe it's Valentina for the things that you had mentioned. For me, I agree with everything, especially on your last rounding point was the Kayla Harrison has a lot of stake in the game, right? Like she has to suck herself out for a month to even get close to the weight. She has to basically walk around in top physical shape almost all year round and then still hit this incredible weight cut just to make the weight class. So like you say, I don't disagree with that, but if I'm not mistaken, she only fought once last year. So for me, that kind of takes away from it a little bit. But for me, it's the opposite. I feel like what Valentina was able to do against Whaley, where I feel like the difference between 115 and 125 doesn't seem crazy in, 10 pounds difference doesn't seem that much. But what she was able to do to Whaley, and not only that, I feel like also what she was able to do in the Manon Farrow fight, that one really kind of surprised me. I thought that was going to be a huge challenge. It ultimately was. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Farrow won 2 rounds. For sure one, but I think it was 2 even. But for me, I feel like personally, I was a huge Valentina fan a couple years ago, still am, but was a really big fan when she was running through the Jessica Eyes and stuff like that. When she was on her true, I'm just unstoppable, the bullet train, when she was that girl, I was a huge fan and still am, like I say, but I genuinely thought she had hit her crescendo in her career. I thought she was on her way down. If I was a stockbroker, I was going to be selling my stocks, put it that way. I was definitely proven wrong over this last year, right? What she was able to do in not only getting the belt back from, I'm not sure if that was the end of 24 or not, but getting the belt back from Grasso, ultimately winning this trilogy that was a bunch of draws and one victory. But the way everything played out and to see her kind of rounding her career now at this latest stage, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's like 37, 38. So she's definitely at the later stages of her career, and to still be able to showcase the level of dominance in a totally different aspect of MMA. I feel like she went from being this just killer, you got to watch every strike. You got to watch everything. To now she has to rely on her wrestling. She has to rely on her takedowns and her, jiu-jitsu and ground and pound. And to me, it's been superly impressive to watch what she's been able to do over this last year. So for me, I feel like I have to go that direction.
All right, before we get to the male fighter of the year and round this thing off, I got to give a shout out to our sponsors, Michigan Street Unlimited. Yeah, that's right. You see all the dope cars in these pictures. Autorama is coming for our fans that are here in the Detroit area. They're going to have 7 cars out of the fleet are going to be at this year's Autorama at the Huntington Center. I'm going to be there. I love Autorama. It's one of my favorite things every year. Shout out to our sponsor, Cody Caudill at Michigan Street Unlimited. If you are a car fan, got a badass car of your own, make sure you check out Michigan Street Unlimited. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. And I'm telling you, if you're a car guy, which, I mean, if you're in Michigan, it's probably a good chance. Make sure you check out the homies and enjoy some motor enthusiasm. All right. Last topic of the night, male fighter of the year. Now, this one I feel like is pretty much undeniably a no-brainer for me, but we'll see what we come up with. For me, the male fighter of the year when it comes to MMA, like I said, there's only really one answer. I think that answer is Merab Dvalishvili. I don't really think you can argue that. I don't think you can fight that. The guy was going for 4 title defenses in a year. Ultimately, yes, he lost the title in the last defense, but I personally, maybe this is just because I'm a fan of the guy, I think a lot of that had to do with the overall activity and the fact that he was in camp for the entire year. I think maybe that might have played a hand in it, hence why I think we're seeing the rematch right away like that with Jan. Again, that said, though, I will say that was the best Petr Yan I've seen in a long time. So taking nothing away from Petr Yan, I want to see them run it back. But when we're talking about 2025, who had the biggest impact, who made headlines, and who really was going for history, that's Merab Dvalishvili for me. Because, dude, he was dominating people up until that Petr Yan fight. And to try to defend the title 4 times in a year is unheard of really in most combat sports, but especially in MMA in 2026 now. I think
this ain't the Tito days. This ain't, like way back when there was only 5 real stars and 3 weight classes, so they needed their guy. It's not that time. I feel like for me, I'm going to go the opposite direction of what I did earlier with you, where I feel like because Merab lost, it makes it really hard for me to say he's the fighter.
That discounts the other 3 title defenses and the way he dominated them?
No, it doesn't at all. But it definitely takes something away, though. I know. I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I just feel like.
But you're disagreeing.
I'm disagreeing, though. Because
I'm not disagreeing, but I'm disagreeing.
Well, when you're talking about what I think you can't win fighter of the year when you're coming off of a loss. I think if he would have lost in the beginning of the year, fought one more time, and then came back and won the belt back, and then defended it one more time for his 4th fight, sure, fighter of the year all day. For me, just because it was recency bias a bit and stuff like that, and the way that, to your point,
you the one earlier in this episode saying let's not go by recency bias, and then some bitch just said he's going by recency bias.
Hey, rules are the rules.
This guy changes his rules as we go. He can't even stick to his own damn rules.
Rules is the rules. But
you set the rules, and now you're breaking your own fucking rules.
For me, I just feel like it's hard to win it when you just lost. And when you're talking about a accumulation of the year, I feel like in certain circumstances, there's different situations, but I feel like when you're talking about who won fighter, long story short, Joshua Van, for all the reasons that you mentioned earlier of why he was a rising star, and probably realistically is also that winner as well. But I feel like Mackenzie Dern needed some love in this list somewhere, so she took that category from me. But I feel like everything you said earlier, to go from general unknown to now champion of the division, whether it was a bit of
Not a bad
so-so
pick. I just
circumstances.
saying we're talking about 4 title fights in a year, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Not
Lost the
just
last
fights,
one.
title
Lost
fights.
that last one though.
And Joshua Van won his on a technicality.
Absolutely did. But he won. He's got the dubs. He's got green on his Tapology.
Oh my god. Shut the fuck up. Oh my god. That is the most whack ass logic. He can't even look me in the face because he knows it's bullshit logic. This guy won 3 fucking title fights, loses the last one after being in camp all year. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with Joshua Van winning for the totality of his year, but if we're comparing fights to fights right now, 4 title fights, in 3 of which he absolutely dominated the best people in the weight class,
and
made Sean O'Malley look like a fucking amateur.
The last time he took them steps, though, he didn't look like himself. You know, he didn't look like himself.
After fucking 4 fights in 4 camps, I mean, I could see why somebody might not look like themselves.
Potentially,
and against the best
reason.
Patreon that we've seen in how long?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll go out on a limb. You put anybody else in that cage other than Patreon that night, he don't lose.
I don't know. That's a hard question because I feel like
because I don't think anybody expected Patreon to do what he did. I'm telling you.
No, but if any of them catch him slipping, you know, there is other contenders in the division. Like,
I'm not
I feel
saying
like
there isn't other people that could beat him. I'm saying they would have had to fight at that level of perfection in order to be able to do that. Yeah. I'm saying if Patreon doesn't come in at the top level of his A game, Merab is still the fucking champ.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I mean, my analysis going into that fight was I'm surprised they even made it because I just feel like Merab's about to run through him again. And then we were all wrong, you know? It's funny how the fight game has a way of doing that. You know, like the second you start to feel confident in something or someone, always has a way of shutting it down, you know?
Way of shutting it down. Well, we're shutting down 2025. We're getting into 2026, and we are already coming in hot. We had a debut episode tonight with Ryan Nemeth ahead of the AMC debut for TNA Wrestling that is going down January 15th. We talked about the shows that are going to be going down in Texas as well for TNA. Make sure you check them out. Shout out to Ross, everybody at TNA. Shout out to Simon for helping coordinate everything with that. Definitely look forward. Make sure you guys stay tuned for more stuff with TNA. Shout out to our sponsors, Michigan Street Unlimited. If you guys are going to be at the Autorama, you got to go check out the homies. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. But that's not all, bro. We are going to be joined by Joshua Double J. Ain't he great? Pagan, before he steps back into the ring January 22nd in Grand Rapids live on DAZN. And the champ is here. We got the return of Caroline Vare. We are going to be talking about her fight on January 22nd. Both of them. We got a twofer. It's going to be a back-to-back double team episode coming to you, Knockouts and 3 Counts, next Tuesday. We will be talking about those fights. If you're going to be in Grand Rapids, come say what up, though. Then we're going to be moving into the Clarissa Shields fight. We've got some stuff cooking with Circle 6. We've got our guy, the Professor, Nick Harrison's going to be in town at the end of the month for his Gen X comedy special. It's going to be a lot of good stuff coming your way from the homies at Knockouts and 3 Counts. A lot of heat to come your way. We knocked out 2025, sent it out with a bang with everything from AEW. Kicking off 2026 with the homies from TNA. And I'm ready to see what new things we'll have to talk about at the end of 2026 with Paramount Plus and everything that's coming with that. And in the world of boxing, I feel like we're gonna have some heat there too. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Michigan Street Unlimited. Make sure you're checking it out. January 15th, TNA Wrestling is on AMC. Once again, shout out to TNA. And until next time, and in the in-between time, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss none of it. That is JEFFJARRET. That's Jeff Jarrett. Ain't he great? No, this is Knockouts and 3 Counts. We'll see you next Thursday. Peace out.